Hello everybody, I'm here with Richard Bolstad, a very famous trainer, NLP trainer, coach, and of course a husband. Thank you very much for coming here, coming to Poland. We are going to talk about marriages and being happy in a marriage. Unfortunately, recent data show that actually number of marriages decreased while the number of divorces increased.
Yeah.
What are your observations in this subject?
Well, yeah, that's true, and I travel around a lot of countries and I see the same kind of thing happening, and I guess some of that's attributable to the changes in society, so there's more pressure on people. But I think also there are some things about living in a relationship successfully that perhaps our grandparents actually knew.
And we don't
anymore. Yeah, and we don't actually remember those things, and almost we expect that it's just going to work naturally. And there are actually some things that make good relationships. There are some things that look like they're going to work, but after a certain amount of time they fail.
What do you think, what people might do to prevent divorces? What we can learn from our ancestors?
Yeah, well, one of the things, I guess, is not to take people for granted. And maybe 100 years ago people knew that life is precious, and not taking things for granted means, for example, being able to say on a daily basis thank you for the little things that you do, and just appreciating things. We find in the research that people need to actually say about 5 times as many generally positive things as they say critical things in a relationship for it to last. And that's a lot of positive stuff. It works out at about 100 words a day. They say that people in good relationships say positively to each other more than people who are in a relationship that's going to break up. So that's one thing.
Okay. Yeah. So say positive things and appreciate your partner.
Yeah.
Okay. And I also meet people who are single, especially when they get to or close to 40, 45, then they actually think, shall I lower my standards?
Yeah.
Shall I fall in love with somebody maybe not exactly I really wanted to be with?
Yeah.
What they can do?
Yeah. See, that's an interesting thing that's changed as well. That maybe 100 or 200 years ago, people accepted that this is not going to be the ideal person that I choose in some special way. We're just together. Perhaps our parents got us together, and so they knew we have to work out how to live together and synchronize with each other. And I think that's true no matter who you choose. So I don't think it's so much a matter of finding someone perfect. I think that what makes relationships work is learning about the other person and finding ways to connect your values together, because everyone's going to have different opinions, everyone's going to have different values. So for example, I'm married, as you said, and I'm very lucky in that way that my wife and I are doing similar kind of work, and we each have interests that are not the other person's interests, and it's really important that we learn about those interests and kind of encourage and support each other. That means that instead of having to choose between myself or my relationship, it feels to me like my relationship actually supports me to be more fully me than I could do by myself.
But it sounds like an ideal relationship, don't you think?
Well, I mean, you're talking to me 10 years after we began that relationship, and so I think it gets more and more ideal for me. And that's something that I'd want to encourage people to understand, is that relationships need to develop. They don't just come prepackaged ready. And so it means that I'm learning more and more about this other person, but also that I'm, because I understand and like them more and more, we do actually fit together better and better. Yeah. Okay. It does sound ideal, but that's the way it is, I think. Yeah.
So have you been married for 10 years?
Well, we've been married for I think it's about 3 years now, and we've actually been together for about 10 years.
10
so,
years.
yeah.
Okay. And how old were you when you met Julia?
Okay, so I was, so that means I was 50, yeah.
That sounds promising, you know, for everyone who is still waiting.
Yeah. Well, I was married before my wife died, actually. So again, that was, that's a really interesting thing, isn't it? It means that I had built a relationship that worked for the two of us, and nothing is going to be the same. Each relationship is unique, and that's another thing, is I need to start from the beginning, not so much start from my plan of what the ideal person is like, but start from finding out about this person.
But I think that you had some criteria that were important to you when you met Julia.
Yeah.
And what was that?
Okay. Well, I guess that I'd had criteria for a while, so it is useful to have criteria, and those include things like I wanted someone who would be. I wanted to be with someone who would be interested in learning how to make a good relationship, who already was kind of interested in how do people get on together. I guess I had met some other people like that as well, and there was something that's hard to quantify, that I just felt very attracted to this person. Like I had this strong feeling of adoration or love, and that I don't think you could plan for. That was kind of, it was, and so it's true. I would encourage people to look for a way to create that. Of course, in arranged marriages, that happens as well. It takes longer. But I wouldn't want to encourage people just to have criteria and live with someone who they think meets their criteria, because I think that'll get disillusioning after a while.
What helps you to be and to stay happy with Julia? Because I know that people have different opinions, crises. Sometimes they just have enough.
Yeah.
So
well,
what then?
Well, it's true too that, we come from different cultures, Julia is Russian Estonian originally, and I grew up in New Zealand, and so, we do have some really different opinions about things, and we have some different ways of doing things. But I think that I've benefited from that. I've benefited from some ways of thinking about things that are very different, things that weren't important to me, because I grew up in a country where people took wealth for granted, for example, and Julia grew up in a country where people are looking for where can we find the wealthy countries, where can we find a more abundant lifestyle. And so for me, having that kind of fancy lifestyle was almost irrelevant, and for her it was an important thing. So I think we were fascinated with each other's different opinions, and that's something I'd encourage people to do, is not to be frightened of the differences, but to be kind of fascinated by them.
And stay curious.
It's like kind of learning about someone, and it really never ends. I just keep learning interesting things about Julia, I just keep discovering.
And it's never ending, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Like one of her real passions is photography. And she's really, really good at it. And I knew nothing about it, and I guess I've learned a little bit about it, but mostly I've learned enough so that I can be amazed and impressed with what she's doing. And that's fun for me. It's something I wouldn't have planned. I had no interest in it. And it's also, I hope that it helps her to feel like, wow, this is a relationship in which what I really want in life is encouraged. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think, what kind of beliefs would help people to stay together?
One really important thing, I think, and I teach courses on communication, and one of the really important things is to understand that people are doing the things they do because it's the best way that they've thought of so far to get themselves to feel happy and comfortable. And so that means that sometimes they're doing things that I might think of as weird, but rather than thinking that this is bad, it's very, very useful belief to know that inside they're trying to do the best that they can. And so what the research shows about couples in that way, and this is, some of the research I teach is, for example, from John Gottman, who's a United States researcher. And he says, that's basically the way we think about ourselves. We think like, yeah, sure, I did some things wrong, but I was just trying to be a nice guy, And so people in good relationships think about their partner the same way that they think about themselves.
So they see that positive intention.
They trust
every act.
This person may seem a little grumpy now, but that doesn't mean that they hate me. It just means that, they must be having a really bad day.
Okay, that's an interesting way of actually looking at my partner, at my beloved, and not trying to find,
and not thinking that if they're doing something weird or difficult for me, that they are malevolent, that they're trying to harm me, but assuming that they must be trying the best they can, and boy, things must be tough if they're like this right now.
So my beloved is not my enemy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I even, caught myself at thinking, no, why? My husband is against me. No, it's not true. He is on my side. It's just a different way how he shows something.
And if someone's having a tough time, like everyone has times when they're exhausted or they just they don't know what to do to respond to something. So,
Okay. What would you advise to people who are actually right now struggling in their relationships? They don't know if they should stay and fight or just leave it and find somebody else.
Okay, well, the first thing I think is that there are some times when it's useful to have someone else to talk through what your choices are, and when it's useful to have someone else to sit with you and your partner while you learn, so that's what's going on between us. So what I'm saying is that it is really worth having coaching or counselling sometimes to get through that kind of thing. I usually would recommend to people reading things by people who've actually researched what they're saying, like John Gottman, and the thing that they emphasise is that you can't just build a relationship by fixing the conflicts. That's important to know how to disagree in a way that doesn't put the other person down, but it's not enough, because you actually do need to start spending some time together, building the positive side of the relationship as well. That's always also important. So that doesn't occur to people when they're in a really tough time. What they're thinking is, how do you solve conflicts? And that's true, but it's not enough to start.
You run training, transforming communication. How these skills would help people to solve problems?
For me, that's why I developed that course, is because I wanted a package that's easy for people to learn these skills in, and where they can not just have a whole series of separate things that they're doing, but they can have a model for working out on which situation am I in. Is this a kind of a time when we are building the good feeling together, or is this a time when my partner's upset about something and I need to be able to listen to them and just be understanding, or is this a time when I'm not happy with something and I need to find a way to explain that to them without them feeling insulted?
For me, that was I was really surprised when you showed the survey, when I was saying to somebody, I communicate. Actually people got stressed. And I thought, okay, when I say what I feel, it's okay. That's something understandable. Why people are, sometimes in some resistance, they don't want to hear it, they don't want to actually understand my feelings.
Well, the first thing is that people have a lot of bad experiences of people criticizing them, so blaming them for things, and they often don't realize that you are actually just talking about yourself. I think that's one thing. But the other thing is that I think it's important to be able to, it's almost like in an old car where you have to shift gears. You have to go into neutral first before you can go into a higher gear. And it's kind of like that I need to be able to step back and acknowledge what it's like for the other person, as part of the process of explaining my concern. And it actually takes a lot for people to learn how to both how to do that, but also how to explain their concern without saying it's your fault. And that's why in John Gottman's research he found that the first thing you say if you're not happy about something, 92% predicts what's going to happen in the discussion. So the first sentence is kind of crucial. Yeah.
So if we could summarize what you said about staying happy in a relationship,
Yeah.
what are the most important things for you?
Number one, focus on and believe in positives, and that includes that the other person is just doing the best that they know how to do. And number two, learn how to express your own concerns in a way that says, as you said, this is my concern, and then acknowledges, I know it's not easy to hear that concern sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the conversation and sharing with us.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.